Carlos Alcaraz wins his 8th Masters Series title and ties the great Thomas Muster. He was called the Alpenboris. For you guys that don't remember Muster, he was the Rafael Nadal from back in the 90s. I'm going to repeat myself, and I've said this many times. We're seeing a new Carlos Alcaraz. This is his 7th final in a row. He is more consistent for sure in 2025 than he was in the previous season. There's absolutely no doubt about it. However, in this Cincinnati Masters Series tournament, both in the semifinal and the final, he pretty much got 2 walkovers because both players were physically affected. Possibly due to the heat, but more likely due to other health problems. Now, the heat for sure is a factor right now. I had a lesson this morning with Shamir, and we're preparing for the rematch with Bremen. For you guys that didn't see the match, I'm going to link it in the pinned comment, and I recommend that you check it out. It was a very entertaining match. Bremen and Shamir played in tough conditions for 3 hours, and they're going to do a rematch, and I'm preparing both players right now for that rematch. I got to tell you, I've been here for nearly 20 years, and this morning's conditions were maybe the worst I've ever experienced. The humidity is sky high, and the temperatures seem higher than usual to me. Both Shamir and I were in agreement over this. I remember watching a tournament in Acapulco, which also has very tough conditions. And in this tournament, please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but all matches were held in the afternoon after 4 p.m. And it seems like a sensible solution. Now, of course, the Cincinnati men's and women's 1,000 level tournaments are way bigger than the Acapulco tournament, and I don't know if it would be possible to have all matches in the afternoon, but now tournaments are stretched way longer, and maybe it would be possible because there were a lot of players who struggled with the heat. And as I said in my last video, this is not necessarily dependent on fitness. And I've had conversations with an Italian guy that I train with a lot, and we were arguing over whether Jannik Sinner can handle the tough, hot and humid conditions. And I argued that Jannik can handle those conditions. I don't see much evidence that he can't. He won Cincinnati last year in the tough conditions. He won the US Open, and he again made it to the Cincinnati final. And he was practicing yesterday prior to the final for an hour and 20 minutes with Nakashima in very hot conditions. So I do believe that Alcaraz handles hot conditions better than Sinner, but I wouldn't necessarily say that Sinner is a player who cannot handle hot conditions. So for sure, there was something else going on with Jannik. He woke up not feeling well. But still, there's a danger that a player might have physical problems when they play in hot and humid conditions. And not only that, it must also be very difficult for spectators in the stands to be able to enjoy a match when it's so hot. So as I'm talking to Shamir this morning, I asked him whether he was excited about this final since he's a huge Sinner fan. And he said that he was excited, but unfortunately due to work, he wasn't going to be able to watch that match. Which brings up the question why they would schedule the greatest rivalry that we have right now in the game of tennis at 3 p.m. on a Monday. It makes absolutely no sense when this tournament was stretched out to 2 weeks, and you could have made it so that the final took place on a Sunday where most people have time to watch tennis. Now, I read an interview with the tournament director, and he said that it wasn't up to him. It's up to both tours. And there was a lot of discussion last year on the calendar being too long and how it can be improved. A lot of players were complaining, and it seems to me that the calendar was made worse, not better. Because for a while now, the mixed US Open tournament has been promoted, and my excitement level for a mixed tournament is mid. I wouldn't say that I'm not excited, but I'm also not overly excited because I'm not sure whether the players are going to play full out. It remains to be seen. Maybe they will. There is a lot of money on the line, $1 million for the winners. And the mixed tournament is packed with superstars. And if you look at the schedule, you will see that both Alcaraz and Sinner are scheduled to play 2 mixed matches tomorrow. Not 1, but 2. Of course, these are not full matches because they're going to play sets up to 4, and the deciding third set will be a 10-point tiebreaker. But nevertheless, it is possible that both Sinner and Alcaraz will play 2 mixed matches tomorrow, and that cannot be good for their singles tournament. Just imagine if something happens to Alcaraz and Sinner. They get hurt in this mixed tournament and they have to pull out of the singles tournament, or they underperform in the singles tournament because of this mixed tournament. So all tournaments now are longer and not shorter, how they're supposed to be. And many players have voiced their concerns over what's happening with the scheduling. And like I said, it's getting worse, not better. Now back to the Sinner Alcaraz final. There's really not much to analyze here because Sinner wasn't right. You could tell from the second game, not really the first game in which he lost the serve to Love. I thought maybe he was nervous in the first game and he's going to play himself into the set. But you could tell there was something wrong with Yannick. He was absolutely blasting the ball and didn't want to be in any rallies. He was walking very slowly between the points. And then in the fourth game, he didn't attempt to run down a drop shot. And you could tell there was something wrong with him. So this wasn't much of a match. But credit to Yannick for stepping out on the court and trying, even though he wasn't feeling well. But back to the scheduling. What I've found watching the Cincinnati tournament is that the night matches were fun to watch. But during the day, because of the color of the court, which was a bright blue behind the baseline, I had a very difficult time seeing the ball. I'm not sure if you guys experienced the same thing, but even in this Sinner Alcaraz final, I couldn't really follow the ball that much. Of course, there weren't that many long rallies, but this begs the question whether the tournament organizers knew that for us spectators, the visibility of the ball was far worse in daytime matches with the bright sunlight versus the nighttime matches. And again, why they didn't schedule both the men's and the women's final later in the afternoon, it remains a mystery to me. But again, they have a super important mixed doubles event tomorrow, if you can imagine. So from that standpoint, it does make sense why they would schedule these finals earlier. So overall, this entire hardcourt swing prior to the US Open was a big mess. We had tournaments overlapping each other. Cincinnati starting while Toronto and Montreal was still going on. Winston-Salem and Cleveland starting while Cincinnati is going on. Again, the calendar is completely broken. In my opinion, the mixed doubles event is not good for the top players, even though it's going to be exciting for a lot of fans. It's quite dangerous to play this much tennis before one of the most important tournaments of the year. Now, if this turns into a hidden giggle, then it's a different story. But if it's a hidden giggle, it's not going to be exciting for a lot of fans that want to see players go all out. And I'm not saying that exhibition style matches are bad. A lot of people enjoy them. It's all good. But me personally, I don't get a lot of enjoyment out of watching exhibition matches. I want to see players compete at their fullest. And when it comes to mixed, I only see that at the Grand Slam level. Anytime I watch an exhibition style mixed match, it's not a serious match. And like I said in the beginning, we have to see whether the players are going to take this seriously. Now, in my opinion, what they should have done instead of this mixed tournament is hold a tie-break 10 mixed event like they did in Indian Wells. This entire event was over in a few hours, and fans had a lot of fun watching, and players were taking it somewhat seriously, and it was overall a fun event. They should have done this instead of taking chances away from doubles players, because that's who competes mostly in mixed events, and they put superstar players in there instead, robbing the doubles specialist from a chance to get a Grand Slam mixed title, and most importantly to get some prize money, because even though there's $1 million on the line, a lot of these players that are entered in the mixed draw don't really care about getting $500,000 each. As crazy as this sounds, they got a lot more to play for in the following week. So I'm not gonna go as far as saying that we didn't get a great Sinner Alcaraz match because of the current scheduling mess on both the ATP and the WTA Tour, and also at the Grand Slam level, which is under the jurisdiction of the ITF, because Sinner wasn't feeling well this morning. I think it would have been a competitive match if Sinner was 100% healthy, and like I said in yesterday's video, it's a 50-50 match anytime they play. Will this have an outcome on the singles tournament at the US Open? We don't know yet, and I do think that it would be wise for Sinner to pull out of the mixed event. He is scheduled to play with Siniakova twice tomorrow, so I don't think that Sinner will play, but I am sure that Carlos will play. And Carlos likes to play a lot of matches, so I don't necessarily think that it's going to affect him negatively right now. Maybe in the long term it will, so he might want to look at playing less matches. His schedule after the US Open is absolutely jam-packed, but that's a story for another day. So whether this will affect Sinner negatively for the US Open remains to be seen. Hopefully he can recover physically and be healthy. But again, Carlos Alcaraz is a new player, and he's highly capable of taking this US Open title. To me, even though Carlos Alcaraz has completed the Channel Slam, winning the French Open and Wimbledon, I think 2025 is the best season that I've seen from Alcaraz, with the sheer fact that the consistency is there. 7 finals in a row, and Carlos Alcaraz now still has ups and downs in his matches. He loses sets to players that Jannik Sinner wouldn't lose sets to. That is 100% true. But Carlos Alcaraz puts himself in a situation where he's deep in a tournament, where he finds his best tennis, and he's highly capable of taking the US Open title. So we have to see what happens at this mixed event. We have to see until the draw comes out, and we'll try to figure out who are going to be the favorites that are going to go deep.